Now, a little bit about myself. As she said, I've had a passion for entrepreneurship for as long as I can remember. I started writing algorithms for virtual self-driving cars when I was 13 years old, where my team and I competed in a nationwide robotics convention in Iran. Since then, my passion has only grown. I've been involved in many startups in various industries, ranging from food tech, where we developed an AI system that generated personalized recipes based on ingredients that you had in your reach, all the way to fintech, where I've been involved in the development of numerous market analysis and investing software. After gathering ample experience in the financial industry, I even published my first book called The Quantified Fortune when I was 16 years old, which aims to cover the basics of modern finance for my peers in an understandable way. I tell you what, though, up until I published my first book, I had only read one book to completion, and that was my own. I was proofreading, so don't take me as much of a bookie. Now, starting young came with its struggles. Just because I started young, it didn't mean that I knew what I was doing. Finding direction and setting effective goals was a major obstacle for me. Although my ambition was admirable, I got too much credit for my accomplishments when I was young. Everyone's focus was on my potential and not on how I could improve or my weaknesses. That left me craving even more acknowledgement without taking a step back to reevaluate my goals and my direction in life. Now, next thing you know, I'm battling away aimlessly, and the acknowledgement is nowhere to be found. I've had a lot of failures in my life, but this one in particular was bad because not only did I lose much of what I had built over the years, but I also lost myself and my direction. Think of being like lost in life. Over the years, I've grown to learn that the best way to deal with it is by preparing your mind for the future as well as you can, which is the inspiration for today's talk. Now, we've all had that New Year's spirit to chase new goals that dies down after 2 weeks, right? But like Einstein used to say, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If you're expecting better results this year than last year, then your approach towards your goals also needs to be better and more effective. Now, the best goals come with an action plan. You should break larger goals into several mini goals to avoid procrastination and make them more achievable. Why? Well, it's like I always say, you aren't necessarily lazy or a procrastinator. You may simply lack clarity. Think about it. Even if you find the smartest person, hardest working person you know, and ask them to make a rocket to send us to Mars before our friend Elon Musk does, likely they would get stuck and procrastinate too, simply because they don't know the steps that they have to take to do that. They lack clarity. Now, implementing systems in your life is a great way to give yourself the clarity that you need. Think of systems as a moving force for your goals. For example, if your objective is to write a book in a year, then a good system would be write 2 pages a day. Now, why are systems so important is because systems eliminate guesswork. You no longer need to wake up and think for an hour, all right, what are my next steps? What do I have to do? With systems, your thought process is, all right, I'm not yet where I want to be, but if I do X, then I'll be a step closer. Now, how do we create a system? Step 1 is to identify what you want to achieve. This is obviously the easy step. The goal of this step is to just completely define what's on the other side of the river. Step 2 is to find your why. Now, everyone has goals, right? And sometimes people have the same goals as you. But what sets your goals apart from other people's goals is your reason why, which is why your focus should be more on the why rather than the what. Step 3 is to learn the actions you must take. Now, the goal of this step is to build the bridge from where you are now to where you want to be. For example, if you want to get in shape, you could spend a few days researching your workout routine, your sleep schedule, your diet, etc. In most cases, the steps have already been cut out for you, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Step 4 is to set implementation intentions. The structure of it is as follows. I will perform a specific action at a specific time in a specified location. For example, I will work out for 1 hour before university from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. at the gym. These statements also act as a safety net for days when your motivation is lower. And lastly, step 5 is to review the system. Now, the review process involves performing your intentions, noting down how you feel, changing them, and then repeating the process. And lastly, you update the system accordingly, according to your findings. And to summarize how to create a system, define what you want, identify why you want it, learn the actions you must take, set implementation intentions, and lastly, review the system. Now, although systems are an effective practice, like every other thing in life, goal setting too can be a double-edged sword. There are some drawbacks to it as well that you should try your best to avoid. The first one being the positive fantasy trap. It's very easy to become over-invested in your goals. You know, when it's the only thing you can think of, the joy, the excitement, the relief. This is called a positive fantasy, and it's not healthy. Psychologists have found that the number one way that your brain can unintentionally deter you from realizing your goals is by fantasizing. Positive fantasies allow you to get a sense of what it's like to achieve your goals in the present, which actually depletes your energy to actually pursue your goals. Second up, we've got the outcomes first trap. Now, why do you think 70% of lottery winners go broke and a third declare bankruptcy within 3 to 5 years? Simple, it's because the outcome, which could be not having money in that case, is treated. However, the cause, which could be lousy spending habits, is untouched. It's easy to think that the outcomes are the problem when things look gloomy. When you're broke, you feel broke. But it's very easy to miss the cause of these problems. Yes, you can win the lottery, but if you continue to spend recklessly, then you'll be right back where you started. Third up, we've got the failure state trap. Have you ever thought, when I achieve X, then I'll be happy? This is called the failure state, and the reason it occurs is simple. Goal setting creates either-or conflicts. You're either a failure, so you have not achieved what you want, or you're a success, and you have achieved what you want. There's no middle ground, which is why it's so easy to fall into this trap. Now, this one takes us to 10 go-to principles that I implement in my daily life to avoid these drawbacks and also to give myself direction as best as I can. Now, the first one, I can't read this one off for the sake of appropriateness, so you guys should do the honors. Now, although it sounds funny, divide the whole population into subgroups by any measure that you'd like. Let's say age. So we classify the population as 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and so on. Now remove any one substrata of the population. Let's say all 18-year-olds. Society would fall. Every role that exists is absolutely necessary and needs to be filled. Even criminals are necessary for justice to exist. So you have to decide and ask yourself, who do you want to be in life? A mega entrepreneur, an artist, an event organizer, a philanthropist? Every step that you take must serve that purpose and that purpose only. Which is why I always say, even after careful consideration, you decide that all you want in life is to be this, that's perfectly fine, kudos to you. Just make sure that you're the best one out there. Second up, live in such a way where even breathing can be considered work. Now, this one's very extreme, and I don't mean it literally. And the lesson here is not that you shouldn't have a work-life balance. The lesson here is to eliminate what is not necessary. If you don't absolutely need to sleep, then don't take a nap. You have to decide what helps you get to where you want to be and what doesn't, and then simply eliminate the latter. Being happy and having social interactions is also necessary, but I never overdo it. I don't go out every day. None of my friends do. Which is why I always use this analogy. By this measure, even breathing can be considered work for me, because I need to stay alive, right? Number 3, don't spread yourself too thin. Your focus, your energy, and your time are 3 assets that are often neglected, but are actually very important. Let's take this scenario, for example. Let's say you're a police officer chasing down 2 criminals. One only knows how to run from point A to point B, and the other only knows how to run as fast as he can in one direction. Which one would you go after first? The one running in one direction as fast as possible, right? Because you can always come back to the other one, and he will still be there at some point between point A and point B. Money comes and goes, whereas time only moves in one direction. You should try to find a way to prevent your time from running out first, and then you can put your focus on the money or whatever it is that you aim for. If you decide to pursue too many goals at the same time, you lose the 3 assets that we mentioned. When I was young, I had an unending drive to try everything, and that really slowed me down. Granted, I learned a lot and I achieved some of my goals, but I would have achieved far more had I focused and used my time and energy efficiently. Number 4, break down your life into categories. First things first, start writing things down, because it's very difficult to remember all the deadlines, the tasks, the goals. You simply get overwhelmed and you lose focus. But secondly, categorize your life into different categories and create category-specific goals and to-do lists. For example, here's how I've categorized my life. I've got my daily routine, which consists of tasks that I repeat every single day. Then I've got the work category, which in and of itself has many different subcategories, such as business, investments, personal brand, and networking. Then I've even separated education into things that are related to university and things that I want to learn in my free time. And I've got the more personal stuff like health, sports, social activities. Now, I strongly recommend doing this as you're not bombarded by hundreds of different things at the same time. And it makes it easier for me to prioritize my work and decide how I'm going to spend my time. Number 5, if you can't find something to live for, find something to die for. This as well is very extreme, and I don't mean it literally, but you should have a purpose in life. Why do you think some parents have superpowers? It's because they're devoted to their children, and that sense of love and responsibility gets them out of bed every morning. Your purpose doesn't need to be something noble, like making the world a better place. It can be something personal, or even selfish, as long as you lead your life with a purpose. For me, for example, it's to repay my parents for all the good that they've done for me. It's my duty to become so remarkable that the people responsible for raising me are noted. Number 6, put yourself in the right environment. Now, this one sounds very, very cliche, but it's also very important. For example, if you want to get in shape, being friends with me is the worst thing you can do because my life revolves around food, and anyone that knows me can confirm this. But on a more serious note, one hand can't clap alone. It's a very famous saying. And no matter how competent you are as a person, someone who has a group that's willing to do anything to help them will outperform you. Number 7, learn to learn. Now, the way I see it, it's much more important to be a good learner than to know it all. This was actually told to me by my programming teacher when I was 13 years old. I was just starting out, and I was eager to start coding. He didn't let me code for months. He told me that first you need to learn how to think critically and approach problems. Then it's going to be very, very easy for you to code in any language that you'd like. He later told me that in life, the most important skill you can develop is being a good learner, because then you can learn any skill you can imagine very easily. And this has absolutely changed my life, because we're born with practically no skills besides crying, right? So you have to learn everything else. And being a good learner is something that can put you 10 steps ahead. Number 8, work hard smartly, not hardly smart. Now, some people would tell you that you don't need to work hard, you need to work smart, and that's partially true. However, you also need to work hard, because no matter how smart you are, there's always going to be someone that's smarter than you that is also working harder than you. And a big part of working hard in a smart way is good contingency planning, because things go wrong and it happens to everybody. Do you know how Jeff Bezos saved Amazon from going out of business? Amazon started as a book-selling website, and Jeff Bezos knew that sooner or later innovation would be needed in the space, and that when it comes, Amazon would have to keep up with it. So he launched Kindle. He significantly damaged his book-selling operations as people started to pay more attention to Kindle. He almost put his book-selling operations out of business so that he can make sure that Amazon remains a market leader. He grew his company, and he achieved what he aspired for Amazon to become. Now, this is a contingency plan at its best. You face an obstacle, but you're prepared to overcome it without betraying your goal. Number 9, if you don't know where you want to go in life, just keep going straight. Now, it's okay not to know what you want in life, but it's not okay to stay in the same place your whole life. You need to remain curious and devoted to improving your life in any way that you can every single day. For example, one thing that I always do is whenever I meet someone new, I always ask them about their life and their line of work to try to learn from them. For example, even my barber here in Groningen, I've asked him how he opened his shop, whether he makes more money from cutting hair or renting chairs to other barbers, his pet peeves as a barber, his long-term goals, anything that you can imagine. You know, some of my friends share the same barber as me, and every time I go to cut my hair, I text them a new chapter of this guy's biography. If you develop this curious habit of asking people about their life, it's very, very useful because it can broaden your horizons in many, many different fields very quickly. And lastly, and most importantly, enjoy yourself. I was on a train with a German guy in Berlin one time, and we started talking. He was telling me how when he was a kid, he broke his nose, he had to go into surgery, and something went wrong with the operation that damaged his nervous system. He was in his 30s when I met him, and to this day, he has to go to Hamburg every weekend and spend hours with his doctors in treatment because his condition got worse over time and put him in excruciating pain all across his body. Now, despite the sad story, he finished his talk with 3 very powerful words. Life is good, and I'll never forget that. Thank you very much.